Hi, my name is Ernie Fraze. I'm a delivery specialist with Fort Garry Fire Trucks. I started with the fire service in 1988, and I'm still with the Winkler Fire Department and currently serving as a captain. It's a small community in southern Manitoba. Today we're going to take a look at this Crusader on a Freightliner chassis, and we'll do a walk around. We'll do take a look on the inside and look at the features of this truck. This truck will be heading to Northern Ontario with the Ontario Fire Marshal's office, and we'll be serving a community in Northern Ontario. Here at the front of the truck you've got the tow hooks, one on either side, and if you do ever use them, always remember to tow in a straight line, as any towing off to the side could twist the chassis, so you always want to tow straight line. This truck is equipped with the low air pressure indicator on the tire. What you will notice that this will start flashing with the red LED light once the tire becomes too low. Okay, we're going to take a look at the engine compartment. A few things that you need to look at, take care of here. Up here is the fluid for the coolant, to check that for your levels. Down here is your windshield washer fluid, and then here's your air filter, and on the inside of the cab there's a gauge that you'll be able to check to see whether when that filter needs to be changed. You also have good access to this side of the engine, your fan belts over here, and a lot of your hoses that you might need to be checking for any leaks. Here we're looking at the driver's side of the engine. Here you've got the fuel filter, and this also is the water separator. So if there's any water in your fuel, you're going to see that show up on the bottom on the glass. If there is any water in your fuel, you're going to get a message on your message center on your dash stating that you've got water in your fuel, and the water can be drained with this discharge right over here. So you can drain the fuel out, and once the water is gone, your message should disappear on your dash. Power steering fluid, you can check the level here. It's a opaque container, so it's easy to check. Here's your oil, engine oil dipstick, and if you go way back over in here is this is the transmission. This area here is your electrical, so you've got fuses in here if you have anything that's not working, and the rest of the electrical is tied up in there. That's for the chassis. The body electrical is in the back. This is the officer side of the truck. Here we've got a scene light, and to operate the scene light you loosen, and it then pushes up, and you can extend it and turn it any which way you need, and then just tighten it up again in the position that you want to hold it at. When you retract it, there's a slot in here that needs to go along this bar just to keep it in its transport position. Bring it all the way down and tighten it back up again. On this side of the truck you've also got two discharges, and you've got a main intake, you've got your 2.5-inch intake, and you also have an external tank fill where you can fill the tank without affecting or going through the pump. And we'll show you how that works once we get to the other side on the pump panel. You've got very good access to your pump compartment. Up here is the electrical for the body of the truck. Over here is the foam discharge going to your check valve and your strainer. But you've got a couple of valves here, a main valve and a drain valve. Lower down there are yellow valves. Another thing you can see from this angle here is the discharge sensor right over here. And also the truck is equipped with the tank vision. Up here tells you how full your tank is, and this truck has one gauge on all three sides, the back and the two sides, so the IC has good access to see how much water is left in the tank. We'll take a look at the officer side of the truck. We've got 3 compartments here, and we have a compartment here that handles the SCBA tanks. It rolls out and locks in an out position, just with the handle here to lock and unlock. A couple of shelves over here, and these are movable shelves, just a matter of loosening some bolts on here and they can be raised or lowered. Over here we've got, again, a couple more shelves, movable shelf. Pull the red knob, brings the shelf out, and push it in, roll it back in. Again, another shelf that is movable. All roll-up doors. And the back compartment has 2 roll-out shelves. Again, 500 pounds weight on here. And again, the top one, you pull the red knob, brings it down, and push to put it. One thing you'll notice on the truck, it's got access panels, 4 of them all around the truck. And those panels are there to access the body mounts onto the frame, and they can be easily checked to make sure that they're still snug, and probably checked on an annual basis with the annual inspection. And they have easy access to the mounts. Okay, we'll take a look at the rear of the truck here. We've got the gauge over here for the tank level. Up on top, we've got a couple of compartments. Here's a compartment for pike pole and hard suction in here. Then you've got your ladder compartment for your extension ladder and your roof ladder. Storage there. Here's your discharge 3. And your compartment, a movable tray, and a roll-out tray here. At this point, we've got a Honda generator in here. And one thing that is behind the generator, there is a panel behind the compartment, and in that panel is tow hooks. And again, if you have to use those, we suggest only towing in a straight line, as again it could twist the frame if you tow on the side. Access ladder to the top side. Just a matter of pulling it down. Again, you need to be aware there are pinch points at the hinge, and another compartment up here. Here's for another hard suction, and for your attic ladder, and another pike pole. This truck is equipped with a traffic advisor, which is controlled by the controls in the cab to advise your traffic whether to go left or right. Okay, up on the top side we've got the hose beds. This is a movable divider that can be moved to the customer's preference. And once that divider is in its proper position where you would like it, down here is a molding that you need to then take that and cut that to the proper length. And over here, it needs to be placed into this slot so that when the hoses come off the truck, the couplers don't catch on the slot here and drag on the coupler. We've also got the water tower here and the foam tower. Water can be put into the tank from above, and also the foam needs to be placed in this tower. Okay, we'll take a look at the driver's side of the truck. The rear compartment again has a rollout tray. 500 pounds limit on that. And this one again is movable on the rails over here. And we've got a tool rack on the back side here. The middle compartment, a movable tray, and another roll-out tray. And we've got two air tank compartments here, and we've also got two air tank compartments on the other side of the truck. Okay, the front compartment on the driver's side has some more air tanks, or probably full SCBAs can go into here, and you've got more space for bottles down there, and you've got a couple of trays, movable trays in that position there. On the back side of this compartment are the washing and maintenance instructions. So make sure you pay attention to that when you're cleaning your truck. Another access panel is here. Truck has, like I said, 4 access panels to do the body mounts. Okay, we'll take a look at the pump panel. And the first thing we're going to look at is the discharge placement. You've got discharge number 1 here, discharge number 2 there, and the way the trucks are numbered, we start at this location and move counterclockwise around the truck. So you got 1, 2, 3 in the back, 4 and 5 on the officer's side of the truck. The controls for discharge 1 is here. And your pressure gauge is in this location. Discharge number 2, control and gauge. And you'll see that it's color-coded white, white, and then the drain for discharge 2 is also white. So every discharge is color-coded as far as the drains and the actual discharge. And it's also marked on top where your discharge number 1, or cross lane number 1 and cross lane number 2, orange and red, so you got orange and red. Some of the drains are on this side of the truck, and some of the drains are on the other side of the truck. So you'll need to make sure that when you're doing the drain that you drain both sides of the truck. Your master drain is down here. These discharges, quarter turn, closed, and open. Drain procedures should be open all the drains, open all the valves, and then remove the caps. Over here you've got your intake, 2.5 inch intake. Your control for that is right here. Main intake, and we'll now go to the primer and your controls for your discharges. 1, 2, discharge number 5, discharge number 3, number 4. Here you've got your tank fill and external tank fill, and this is the one that we would use on the other side where your external tank fill goes directly into the tank and does not affect the pump at all. So you can be using the pump and filling your tank at the same time. Down here is your tank to pump control and your water level. Over here is your bypass valve and your heat exchanger. Your bypass valve is your pump cooler, and your heat exchanger is your engine cooler. Helps cool your engine. Up here is a couple of ports, and these are used by the pump tester when he's doing the pump tests on an annual basis. Here's a couple of switches. This is for your pump house and your pump light. Switch that for inside and outside. This is for your heater. The pump house has 2 heaters inside for wintertime, and so you can keep your pump house warm. Now you've got your right scene and your left scene, and that's these scene lights right here, one on that side and one on this side. You also have a switch for the horn. If you want to do your Mayday call, you can do that right from the pump panel here. The work lights on this truck light up all these steps. Wherever there's a step or a ladder, you have lights that will light it up. You've also got lights at the bottom of the truck to light up the ground to check for any trip hazards that you might encounter on the scene. We're going to talk about the in Control 400, the electronic governor here, there's two different modes that the governor can run in. One is the pressure mode and one is in the RPM mode. When you're running in an RPM mode is probably very similar where you control the pump pressure by adjusting the throttle. So that can be done also this way by adjusting the throttle, by turning the dial, and you have an idle button in the center. Here you've got your pump discharge and you've got your pump intake pressures. Over here you've got your RPMs and then indicator basically giving you some information and also will tell you what your target is on your RPMs or what your target is on your pressure. When you're running in pressure mode, you hold the button for about 2 seconds to change between pressure and RPM mode. When you're running in either mode, you set your goal or your target by dialing it in, and the engine will then try to adjust to meet your target. When you're in pressure mode, you can set the pressure, let's say at 120 psi. Then when the discharge is opened and the nozzle is open at the other end, your pressure is going to drop, and what the governor is going to do, it's going to adjust the RPMs to try and maintain the pressure that you have set as your target pressure. If you open up a second discharge, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to try and maintain that pressure for you and make that setting for you. If you're going to be drafting using the main intake from a portable tank or a static water source, you will need to start in RPM mode because you will need to gain pressure before you can change it to pressure mode. You have a preset button here, and if you're going to be drafting, you can hit that preset button. It will rev your engine up to about 1200 RPMs, which is a good place to be for priming the truck. Once you've got your hoses, hard suction hooked up here and into your portable tank, you can then prime it. Okay, you prime it until you're going to get pressure over here. Once it shows that you have pressure, you have gained prime, and you can then start your operation. Once you have pressure, you can switch it to pressure mode. And at this point, your target is going to be pressure. You also have a preset in the pressure mode, which is typically set for either 120 or 150 psi. Once you hit your preset mode, your engine is going to try and maintain your pressure that you have as a target. At any time, you're able to adjust that pressure by turning the dial up or down, depending on what pressure you want to use. Once you have your discharges connected and your hoses out and you start flowing water, when you're in the pressure mode, you don't need to adjust throttle because the governor is going to adjust that for you. Once the discharge is opened up and the pressure comes down, the engine is automatically going to start revving up to try and maintain the target that you have set. And also, if a second line is opened up, it's going to do the same thing. It's important to open and close your discharges and your nozzles slowly because the engine cannot compensate instantly for that change in pressure. So opening and closing the nozzles is important in this situation. And then the engine will compensate and lower the revs once you start closing nozzles. The governor also has a low water, no water safety built into it. When your tank, if you're running off of your onboard tank, once the tank runs empty and the pump operator is not at the pump panel, the engine is going to try and compensate because you're losing your pressure. It's going to rev up and it's going to try and maintain that pressure. If it can't get any pressure, it's going to rev back down again and down for a few seconds, and then it's going to try again to try and give you that pressure that you're asking for. It's going to rev up 3 times, and if it can't get that pressure or there's no water, then it's going to go down to idle, and it's going to maintain that idle until operator input. Okay, this truck does have a foam tank, but it does not have a foam system built into it. You use the foam eductor, which gets attached to one of the discharges. The foam hose then gets attached to the onboard foam supply and gets controlled by this control right here. So the foam then goes into the foam eductor and gets distributed out to the foam line. The way the exhaust is filtered is that when the exhaust is exhausted out of the truck, it goes into a ceramic filter. And prior to that, the diesel exhaust fluid is mixed in with the exhaust. It changes the molecular structure of the exhaust so that when it enters the ceramic filter, all the particulates can be collected in that filter, and then the exhaust is much cleaner as it is discharged from the truck. Every so often, the exhaust filter will need to be cleaned, and that's called regenning the filter. And the truck will do that automatically when it is required, and the computer will tell the truck when that needs to be done. When that happens, the exhaust coming out of the truck is very hot, and anything that is in the near vicinity of the exhaust, if it's flammable, it could ignite, and so you want to make sure that when that is happening, that you do not have anything flammable near the exhaust. That will happen based on how long the truck has been idling and how long the truck has been running, and in between regens. When the truck regens, when driving down the highway, it'll regen automatically, and no need to worry about it. But every so often, you may get an indicator on your dash stating that the filter needs to be regened. If that happens and you come back to the hall, you need to put it into regen, and how you do that by parking the truck outside, and then you would push the regen button on the dash, and the truck would then go into regen. It would idle up and go into the regen, and once it's completed the regen, it'll idle back down, and the regen has been completed. With the fluid, make sure that you only put DEF fluid into this tank and only diesel fuel into this tank. Always make sure that you have enough fluid in your tank. If you do not have enough fluid, if you run out of fluid, or if you do not regen the truck when needed, the truck could go into limp mode. So you want to make sure that you always maintain that system. Okay, we'll take a look inside the cab. Before we get inside, there's a few things I want to explain here. Here's your shoreline, and runs the air compressor and the battery charger. And you've also got a block heater here. The battery charger and the air compressor is located inside the doghouse. And there's an indicator on the doghouse. When you plug this shoreline in, you should always make sure that your auto charge lights up so that you know that you actually have power going to the truck. Another thing here that I'd like to show you is the fluids label. This gives you a list of all the fluids that are used on the truck and the volumes that are needed. And you've also got your tire pressure weights at this location. Right here on the floorboard is your master switch. And you've also got your air seat control at this location. On the door itself, you've got your mirror controls. It's electric mirrors on this truck, so you've got them right on the door. Your ignition key. You also have access to your battery right underneath the driver's seat here. The latch is here to look at the battery and check the battery. However, if you actually need to change the battery, you need to remove this panel here, access the battery, or change the battery. One of the things that I should mention as far as the diesel exhaust fluid goes is that there are some pumps. There's a pump back in that location, and the diesel exhaust is a urea-based compound, so it is susceptible to freezing, and therefore there are heaters inside the tank to keep it warm in wintertime. And also, when you turn the truck off, you may hear some cycling in the background, and what that is these pumps are drawing all the DEF fluid back into the tank so that it doesn't freeze the lines when it's sitting idle. Also from this side, you have access to the fuse for your radio power, so that can be checked over here. Okay, we'll take a look inside the cab here, look at some of the controls. I'll start on the left-hand side here. Right on top here is your headlights. In the middle position, it's an off position. Up, the headlights are on, and down is for your park lights. Right below it is a bit of a rocker switch, and it says increase and decrease, and what that does, increases and decreases the background lighting of your dashboard. Over here you've got your signal light, and it also has your windshield washer, windshield wiper controls on it. Right over here is your emergency four-way flashers, and we'll take a look at the dashboard itself. Very standard dashboard here: oil, water, and transmission temperature. On the right side is your fuel gauge with your DEF gauge included in that gauge, and then you've got your 2 air tanks below that. Over on the center is your RPM and your speedometer, and I'll just turn that on. All the indicators. You have a heater indicator there, and you want to make sure that before starting the truck that you actually wait till that light is off before starting the truck, so that the air intake heat is at the correct temperature. Over here you have a seatbelt indicator. Right now you can see that the light is red, meaning somebody is sitting in that seat. When I put on my seatbelt, the light turns green, and you're going to get a warning light anytime a seatbelt is not fastened and you're in a forward-moving position. The rest of the controls here is your heater and air conditioner outlets there. Here's your speed control, your cruise control. You turn that on or off, and then this is your set down and resume and accelerate up. This also acts as your high idle. So when you're in park, but your parking brake on and in neutral, and you want to bring the idle up, just engage the speed control and push the button up, accelerate, and your engine is going to idle is going to increase to about 1200 RPMs. Down here you've got your mirror heater, and this is your regen button that I was talking about. If you ever get a regen required indicator on your dashboard, then you need to park your truck outside on the tarmac and push this button, and then the truck will go into regen. The idles will come up, and it can take up to 20 minutes for it to regen. Once your idles come back down to normal, then you know the regen has been completed. Your parking brake is here. This is your traction control for snow and mud, and this switch over here is for your diff lock for your rear axle. Right here is the indicator for your filter. It's a filter minder to tell you when your air filter needs to be replaced. So that will turn red, and that's an indicator that that filter will need to be replaced. Over here you've got your engine fan. You can turn that engine fan on manually if you like. The thermostat in the truck will turn it on automatically if it is required. But if you want to do it manually, you can do so. Down here is your exhaust brake, on and off. And then over here, you've got a couple of power outlets. Down here is your heating and air conditioning, fairly standard. And if you see the blue side here, that means that is the air conditioning side of it. And the other side is the heat. And then just your temperature control here. This truck is equipped with the automatic transmission. It's got an Allison transmission in it. R for reverse, neutral, and drive. And you've got the up and down arrow here to actually change the transmission gears manually if you need to. Up here, indicator is going to tell you what gear you've selected, and on beside it, it's going to tell you actually what gear you are in. Control also has a feature where you can check the status or the diagnostics of the transmission. In neutral, the transmission needs to be warm. Park brake needs to be applied. Then you take and you push both the up and down arrow at the same time. And what's going to happen is it's going to show here, it's going to say settling, and it's going to do a countdown of possibly up to 90 seconds. And what's happening is that the oil fluid is settling in the transmission, and it's then going to take a measurement to tell you whether your fluid is okay or whether it's low, and whether it may even tell you that it's high. Always make sure that you're parked on level ground when you do that. Once you know what your level is, you can then push the two buttons again. It'll tell you the status of your oil filter or your transmission filter. And you push it again, and it'll tell you whether you have any codes. So you can just keep pushing these two buttons until you go through the diagnostics, until you're back to the first one, and then you can push the neutral button to bring it back into neutral. All right, we'll look at some more controls down over here. Over here is the air horn control for the officer, and you have your microphone for your loudspeaker, and further on down use your spotlight. That is, you have access to there. This truck has got two spotlights, one on either side above the cab, and these are the controls for that. You got your on-off switch here, and you've got a slow mode and a fast mode, and this can just controlled by joystick. And this is one for the officer's side, and this is the one for the driver's side. Again, works the same way, your on-off switch and your controls. This is your horn selector, and that controls how the button on the steering wheel is controlled. So if you push it all the way forward, you get a siren mode. In the center is your air horn, and lower is your electric horn. So you can select which horn you want to use for the button mode. The traffic advisor is right here, and again, it will tell you what is happening on the back, and you can just control that by dialing it to whatever you want to use there. You have a high intensity and you have low intensity, and that's the low intensity is used for nighttime, and the high intensity is for daytime. This is your siren control here. You've got a number of different styles of siren just by turning the dial, and you have a manual, and you also have the horn. Okay, up here you've got your air horn, and you've got a control on this side, and you also have a control on the officer's side. Interior lighting, you just push the lens for your red light, white light, and on the back is the same way. Just push the lens. We'll take a look at the pump and gauge control here. What you do when you arrive at the scene, make sure that you gauge your parking brake. Make sure that you have it in neutral, and then you engage the pump and lift the yellow part halfway all the way down. At that point, your pump and gauge light will turn on. Now you need to engage the transmission. Push the D button to engage the transmission. It will go to a fourth gear, and your OK to pump light will come on, and your OK to pump light will turn on the pump panel. To disengage, you do everything exactly in reverse order. Bring the engine down to idle, put it to neutral, wait till the speedometer goes down to 0, because the speedometer is going to show a speed when the pump is engaged. Once that is down to 0, you can then disengage the pump. Again, lift the yellow part to the center, wait a second or two, and disengage. And all of your lights should be out. The emergency controls are up on top on the bulkhead. This is your emergency lighting. So all you do is one switch turns on all your emergency lighting. This is your alt, it says alt flash on here, and this is your wig-wag headlights, alternating flash on your headlights. This is your brow light or your front light, scene light for the front. You got a left hand, rear, and a right hand light, scene light. This is the indicator, alarm indicator. If any of your compartments have remained open, then that light will come on if you try and you'll get an alarm if you try and move the truck with any compartments open. Then you've got your floodlights, and on the back of the truck you've got a couple of floodlights to help you when you need to load your hose bed at the middle of the night. And you've got your work lights over here. This is the override button for the power manager. This truck has a power manager with it that if the power on the battery starts to lower, then certain items on the truck will start to shut down to save power. And if you want to override that manually and do that manually, you can do that by pushing that button. This truck is equipped with a backup camera, and this is your screen accessed for the driver, and that camera will turn on anytime you put the truck in reverse, and will tell you, will show you the back end of the truck. The screen over here also has a speaker in it, and the back camera has a microphone in it so that the person in the back can speak to the driver while he's backing up. All of Fort Garry's trucks have their own manufacturer's number. This truck happens to be J0089, and that's important when dealing with the plant on any issues for warranty, or if you have any questions about the truck, just mention that number and the staff here at Fort Garry can pull that information up on their computers and look at the schematics, look at the drawings of the truck, and also all the build pictures to check anything out that you might want to have some information on. Okay, this is the typical paperwork that goes along with a delivery, and so I'll explain a little bit about that. I'm going to start on the center column right here because that's the warranty section. So this is the Allison transmission warranty, the Cummins warranty, and right here we've got a Freightliner warranty, but that will depend on what brand of truck has been purchased. All of these have the customer's name and information on it, and what is basically required on here is the customer's signature, and in most and a delivery date, and on some of them will require a mileage. On the Cummins will require a mileage down here, and signature and date in service. On the Freightliner will be the same thing: serial numbers, in service date, and the mileage at delivery with the signature and a date on the bottom there. Over here is the Fort Garry warranty, and that deals with all the paint and the body, etc., etc. on the Fort Garry side of it, on the body side of it. And it's a 3-page document, and on the 3rd page is again the signatures of the customer and the Fort Garry signatures, again requiring odometers and the date. Some of the other documents here is a driver delivery report, which he fills out and hands back into the plant. This is a factory follow-up form. If there's any items that were noticed during the delivery that needed to be looked after, they could be noted on here and turned in back to the plant, and then that could be looked after by service personnel. This over here is just a checklist for the driver to check off to make sure he's got all the forms required that need to be handed in back to the plant. And here's an instruction sheet for the driver, giving him instructions as to how to look after all of this paperwork. On this side here, we've got a 4-page document, and this is a checklist of all the items that are dealt with during the orientation, and they need to be checked off. and the customer needs to initial each page and sign on the last page that all of these items have been covered and that the customer is familiar with them. This document here is a delivery checklist, again, making sure that all of the items that are required have been filled out, and the customer and the Fort Garry signs this document to be handed in back to the manufacturer.
Hi, my name is Gwen Graham. I'm the Service and Warranty Supervisor here at Fort Garry Fire Trucks. I wanted to first congratulate you on the purchase of your new Fort Garry Fire Truck, and I'm here to talk about the warranty process for you. So with your new unit, you would have received a delivery package that will have all the warranty paperwork for the chassis, the transmission, and the engine. These forms need to be filled out and sent back as soon as possible. We need to have the date and the current kilometers so that I can have them registered with the corresponding manufacturer. So you can do this by signing the paperwork and handing it back to your delivery driver, or if your truck was delivered by another method, you can email them to me at ggraham@fgft.ca, or you can fax them in to my attention at 204-694-3230. All warranty requests need to come through the warranty department at Fort Garry Fire Trucks. You can either contact me again by email, ggraham@fgft.ca, and all I need from you is the problem with the truck and the MSO number. The MSO number is important because I need to be able to identify your unit in our system, and that is our manufacturer serial number, and it makes it far easier to track. So once we have your claim in process, if you need to have work done and you're around Fort Garry Fire Trucks, we will make arrangements to have your truck come in to be repaired. If you are not close to Fort Garry Fire Trucks, we will make sure that we have one of our subcontractors come out and have a look at your truck, or we can send one of our own service technicians from Winnipeg to your unit and repair it on site. If you have a warranty concern regarding the chassis, you can still contact me and I will help make arrangements to have these issues looked at with the manufacturer of your chassis. If you need parts, I can also send you the parts out. What I will need from you, I'll need the used parts returned to me. I will give you an RMA number and generally the work order assigned to your unit to have those parts come back. I need to have the parts back within 30 days of the repair. If I don't get the parts back, unfortunately, we will have to charge you for those parts. The one thing I ask is please do not initiate a warranty claim through your salesman or the delivery driver. Unfortunately, things get misinterpreted, misunderstood, or sometimes forgotten. So if you again contact me, ggraham@fgft.ca, send me a little blurb what you're feeling the issue is, and we will look after you. All of our warranty claims are kept in a database here at Fort Garry Fire Trucks, and they are all gone over once a week. Claims for warranty that have not been approved in writing will not be paid out, unfortunately. So again, any warranty concerns whatsoever, just shoot me an email, ggraham@fgft.ca, or you can send a fax to my attention at 204-694-3230. And thanks again for your purchase of your Fort Garry Fire Truck.